Hi and welcome to this new episode of Dreamers and Doers that I absolutely loved. For once there were two people, Hayley and Edward, who did together a 100-day comfort zone challenge. And you'll see they did a lot of really fun things that you can replicate to get outside your comfort zone. But in the end it goes quite deep and we look into the power of giving that they discovered through doing these activities. Very genuine chat. I hope you'll love it as much as I did. Also, I've just made all the programs free, so you can check that out on go.unlocked.me. That's go.unlockdt.me, and you can get started there. I'm so happy to release this. If you like the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe and to give a nice review. Enjoy. Hi guys, and welcome to episode number 46 of Dreamers and Doers, where I interview people who follow their passion and I think use it to make a better world. And today I have two guests. Hayley, welcome Hayley.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great.
Good.
How are you, Edward?
Very good, my man. Very good. Thanks for having us.
And so Edward and Hayley did something really interesting. It's a 100-day comfort zone challenge. Is that how you call it?
Yeah, that's right.
And you know, we always say growth happens at the end of the comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really interesting that you did this, and I definitely agree with it. So we'll jump into your story, and you can put a little bit of, you know, where you come from, and then how you came up with the idea. So who wants to start?
You want to go?
Well, what happened originally was we both had similar goals. So I'm from here in Sydney. Well, we're in Bali right now, but I'm from Sydney, Australia, born and raised. Yeah. And I met Ed, who's Swedish, mm-hmm. and we've been really good friends for a couple of years now, and we both have similar goals or similar ambition. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how we realized, you know, life could be so much better, but what can we do about it? And we recognize we have a lot of goals that we want to achieve, but we're not really doing much about it. So we decided to implement this comfort zone challenge because we wanted to know, like, how to fulfill our potential, or how to basically know what we're capable of.
And what were you doing at the time? Like, what was your job?
So still my current job at the moment, my full-time job anyway, and it's admin basically for a government organisation, and it's not where I want to be. It's not what I want to be doing. It's not what I'm passionate about. This is what I'm passionate about. Growth and personal development is what I'm truly passionate about, and contribution as well. And so to me, I was just like, what am I doing? Honestly, what am I doing with my life? Now is the time to make a change. And the comfort zone challenge came from that. And it definitely came from what's something dramatic, like what is massive action that we can take for massive change. And we put together this project.
It's interesting because I think we got into personal growth, I think with a similar mentality, which is to, you were talking, to make life exciting, when some people go in there out of very, very strong suffering. So it's an interesting people's story.
And it was a pain point. Knowing that I'm capable of so much more, but not understanding how to get there. And this was the perfect way to try and figure it out. And
Edward, when you got started, where were you at, like psychologically and professionally?
Yeah. I'd say like the story is very similar to Hayley's.
When did you start it?
It was in
March last year.
Yeah.
So March 2018.
So a year ago,
Yeah. So it was very, very similar to Hayley. I've been for a long time now, been really interested in like personal development and reading and kind of to an obsessive level. And the annoying thing is, and everyone who's into personal development can probably relate, is you read way too much. It's like information overload. And when you look back, you're like, oh my god, that was such a good book. And what did I apply? Like, basically nothing. It was a good book momentarily, but nothing happened. So we were just like, okay, let's focus on action. Let's really just implement, do the things that are really uncomfortable, that we have hold us back for such a long time. So I was in a full-time job, and I still am, the same full-time job. But just, you get stuck in such a, same rigid old routines where you go up the same time, you eat the same thing, and you go to work and you do the same thing, and then you go home and you do the same thing. Like it just felt like life was pretty much the same over and over again. I know it's taken to the extremes, but that's what we felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And if we would have no limitations and no nothing holding us back, what would we do instead? So we wrote that list. We just brainstormed and came up with 200, 300 ideas on a list. We would just this would be really uncomfortable for me to do.
Yeah.
And then we set a plan and say we're gonna hold each other accountable and go ahead and really try to give this a go. And since we're two different people, all the challenges weren't the same. You had some things that I would be
easy.
That's nothing.
Yeah. What is that?
And you had some that were really, really hard for me. So yeah, it was just the process of thinking what are you really scared of. That in itself is super interesting. What are you scared of?
For me, I think the biggest fear came across in the past 2 years through personal growth is the fear of failure.
Fear of failure?
Yeah.
How so?
I think there's a bit of social part, that people look at me, my family, my friend, and be he's a failure.
Yeah.
And,
Judgment.
And self-love too, seeing myself as a failure. Yeah.
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 Has that hold you back a lot, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it held me back from doing the things I love because when you're scared of being a failure, it freezes you from doing things that are vulnerable. Because when you do something new, when you do, if you start doing something, you're gonna be not the best at it at first, right? So let's say you're really good at something, and you really recognize at something, and you want to do something else. It's gonna be hard to start with that beginner's mind and kind of beginner's reputation too, and skills.
Yeah, and there's a really good quote, and my gym uses it a lot as well, and I've really started to understand the value in it, and it's just simply embrace the suck. So it's whenever you're starting something fresh as a beginner, you have to absolutely embrace it and know you're just going to suck at it. You're going to look bad, and it's absolutely okay. But if you have that fear of judgment, that stops people from even trying. So embrace the suck if you're starting on new ventures.
Yeah, no, that's completely true. I mean, I'll ask for you after. But for me, that was this, and I think because my whole life I've been kind of that successful kid. When you look into the image you had in your parents and friends' eyes, then that was something I needed to break through because it had served me for a time, but then it was holding me back. What was it for you, Edward?
I've always been comparing myself with other people, and it's been it started when I was a young kid, when I always wanted to become a professional football player, and then you compare yourself to whoever you're playing with or against, and you always want to up them, and then you go through high school and stuff where you in a phase where everything that you do need is to look good to others, essentially. So a lot of the challenges that we came up with, or for me, that were really hard, was making a fool out of myself in public.
Okay, so we'll go on the example in a minute, and for you, Hayley, quickly.
For me,
what was it?
It's funny, I'm actually afraid of so many things. I've realized the challenges have brought this out of me. I'm wow, I have a million things on my list. I'm so scared, and ultimately I think for me it's a fear of judgment.
Okay.
Which is an incredibly common fear, but it holds me back from so many things.
It's still quite similar, right?
Yeah, I think
because failure is judgment,
yes,
and competition
and rejection.
And rejection.
Very common things. And they play out in so many different ways.
So what we did there, we realized that there are a few areas which are really, really hard. So we divided the entire challenge, all these 100 challenges that we set out to do. There were in 3 different categories. The first one was to kill the fear of rejection. So do things where you actively seek to get embarrassed or rejected in a really painful way. That was the first one. The second one was just action, like do something, like something that is not necessarily a rejection, but something that is just really, really uncomfortable for you to do. Which could be, for Hayley, it was skydiving, which was really, really hard.
Terrifying.
But it could be, I did like stand-up comedy as an
Whoa.
example.
Yes, big time.
Horrible.
But probably after you've done it, not as bad as you thought it'd be, right?
It
it's
never
like
is.
this. It's like, it's like, it looks horrible, you do it and you're like, isn't that bad?
Yeah.
It's always the anticipation so much worse than the actual action. Yeah. And the last one was paying it forward. So we wanted to do all these things for 60 days, and then for the last 30 we focused on paying it forward, but doing things that would still make us uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because it's not usually like us to go extreme in giving. Like, we give to people we love and we know really well, but to give something of yourself to strangers is a lot harder. Okay. So we wanted to pay it forward that way. You could also say random acts of kindness as well. Okay. And then our last 10 days were a combination of the three: rejection, comfort zone, and paying.
But things like saying I love you to your mum might be something very uncomfortable.
That was one of my challenges. Yeah, you did it too, didn't you?
To my dad.
To your dad.
We've never, that I know of, that I can remember, we've never told each other that we love one another. So that was one. So that's just one example, and that was a soft challenge.
But it was still uncomfortable. I was so nervous, and it was weird. I was like, why? Like, my heart shouldn't be hard.
They raised you, they nurtured you, and I can't even say that I love you.
I know. It's interesting that these things came out. Yeah, very interesting.
So do you want to give a few examples
of what we did?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've started already, so maybe. Can you each say which was the toughest?
We should they're so different in many ways. So I think we should probably but one in every single category, or one or two in every single category. So rejection, what was it for you? What was the hardest rejection that you got?
Let me think about it. You can start.
I know
it's
for
a long
me.
List.
Yeah, okay.
They're all very hard.
List. But there are so many that pops up straight ahead. The very, very first thing that we did, day number one, was to go out in the middle of a crowded street at lunchtime and walk up to a complete stranger with a ring and go down on one knee and propose. And that was extremely hard. And that is public humiliation at its core.
It was way worse for you than it was for me.
I stood there for like 45 minutes.
Eyes.
And then Hayley took 2 seconds, and then she walked up to someone.
He's like, that guy. I'm like, okay.
So that was really, really hard. But I mean, I did
Wouldn't this be, I feel sometimes the hardest thing though, are the one that are not too much of a joke. For example, I find the most uncomfortable for me would be, when we talked about saying I love you to your family, or like asking a girl you really like out, or this kind of thing, or doing something like so completely crazy that it's a bit of a joke. I find it usually less uncomfortable.
I agree, and that sounds like maybe you're afraid of being vulnerable.
But because nothing is the same, right? Or less is
because it's way more vulnerable.
You have to put yourself out there
to do something you really care about. It's more safe when it's more like
when
a joke.
when you're invested in a person. That's when it gets really hard. That's something I definitely learnt doing these challenges as well. It's like it's way harder to do anything to people you know compared to randoms on the street. What?
So why was it so hard for you, this one?
First of all, because it was the very, very first one that I hadn't built my comfort zone muscle or anti-comfort zone muscle.
It was the absolute first challenge.
And then I just my brain came up with every single excuse that it could find. Like, no, she's busy, and she just got in line to buy something, and she's on the phone, and blah blah. So it just came up with every single excuse that it could imagine, and I'm like, I've read all this stuff, I should know this, but then my instinct said something completely differently. So that's why it was really, really hard. So I did that twice, and I got rejected. So mission accomplished.
So you're not married.
I'm not married.
Dodged the bullet.
But it was funny, I had
It would have been a beautiful story.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, the funny thing is, we've recorded everything. Everything is eventually. not every single thing. Some of them were more personal, you know, but pretty much every single thing is going to be like published eventually.
We'll be releasing them. Cool. Yep.
But a few other things that I did that I thought was quite funny was walk into the middle of a street, like where there's a red light, and knock on the door on a car, and say, "Hey, can I borrow your car for an hour?"
Okay. Can you imagine?
Can you step out? Can I just borrow, like, just for an hour? I'm just gonna go to Bondi real quickly and then come back. And people were almost like offended by the audacity to ask such a question. That was really hard. Something that was really fun was to go into restaurants and ask for free food. Because some of them were like, "What do you mean free food? What is that?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing?" But I succeeded. I got free food.
You got?
Yeah,
Nice.
I did.
Yeah, and Tim Ferriss is big on the comfort zone. Like, thanks to him, I've been staring at people in the bus for the past 5-6 years and doing a bunch of weird stuff. And I think there's one way is like ask people for a discount for anything.
Yeah. That was one of them.
And that can pay off clearly. You know, why not? Just ask the question. Yeah.
It's like you go have a coffee and it's $4 and you're like, can I pay only $3? You see, you know.
Yeah, just ask. Can I just pay less? See what happens.
And then the rationale behind is it gets easier to have that conversation with your boss about the raise or anything. And we'll talk probably about what you got out of it.
There's. I mean, the crazy thing is, this is just the rejection part, but that whole 30 months in itself, there's so many good stories there. We could probably have a 15-hour podcast about.
Good.
How about you then? What were your rejection wise?
Yeah, so I did the proposal as well, and you were right, because the difference between us doing this as well was Ed had 24 hours. He knew that was his first challenge the day before. So he had all this time to think about it, and that's what really freaks people out.
Get in your head,
you're in your head, and you're just like, what if this happens? What if I'm going to look? So he was super stressed by the time he actually got there. I didn't know I was actually doing.
Cool.
Please check out the footage. It was not cool. So I literally had 2 minutes, as Ed said, because I wasn't planning on doing the same challenge that day. It was on my list, but I was going to do it later. Okay. And Ed said, well, we're here now, so go and do it. So I didn't have time, and I think that's why it was so much easier for me. I just jumped into action mode and went, oh, okay, I've got to do this thing. This is happening. And then by the time I realized what was happening, it was over. And also the guy was really nice, and he laughed and he introduced himself, and we had a chat, and I walked away. So it was a really cool sort of exchange in the end.
Your guy was so cool.
He was really. You picked a decent guy.
I want to propose it.
Maybe next time that will be another challenge.
That's a very good point. For example, even as a guy, if you find there's a beautiful lady in the street, either I know if I start being. It's done. Like after 5 seconds, there's like something called the 5-second rule. If you don't act within the first 5 seconds, it's too late.
And that's such a good rule, to be honest. Like always, I did that exact same thing to go and ask a girl out. And again, stood there for 45 minutes. And just like no, she's walking too fast. She blah blah blah. You just need to go and do it.
And I just went and did it. So it wasn't as hard as Ed found it, but one that I did find hard was we were in Canberra, and I had on my list to ask a stranger to hold my hand while I crossed the road. And again, this is not someone I know, so it is slightly easier, but because I'm so afraid of judgment, I was just like, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I can't even justify why I'm doing this, I couldn't hide behind this justification of, I'm just asking this guy to hold my hand while I cross the street. And so I just thought, what story am I going to come up with when I ask this question? And a guy walked past, and I spoke to him, and I said, hey, do you mind holding my hand as I cross the street? And his first reaction was, why? And I wasn't really ready. I was like, why? Yeah, why? Like, why? And I said to him, well, didn't your parents used to hold your hand when you crossed the road as a child? And I'm trying to go into, it's a nostalgic thing. I just want to, hold you. I want you to hold my hand while I cross. and we were just having a chat about childhood.
So awkward.
Out of this one question, he started telling me about his childhood. And I was like, wow, I'm actually really interested now. And then the light went green, and we hadn't really established if he was going to hold my hand or not. And then I said, well, okay, we're crossing now, so will you hold my hand? And he's like, okay. And he holds my hand, and we're walking across the road. And we get to the other side. I'm like, thank you very much. And he says, have a good day. And that's it, the end. But it was so interesting because I was trying to justify everything already. Like, how do I look less stupid? That was what I was going into. So that was definitely a sign of how afraid of judgment I am.
Okay.
And afterwards, I was like, that was actually kind of cool. Like, we started talking about this guy's childhood all of a sudden out of this dumb question. So it was really, really hard. I was super nervous. And in the end, it was actually really cool.
Okay.
And I found that with a lot of the rejection challenges was, I'm so afraid of rejection and judgment. But whenever I did the challenges, I always got something out of it. So even putting myself in that position of, what's everyone going to think of me? By the end, I was like, you know what? It actually doesn't really matter, especially with strangers, because you're likely not going to see them again. And if you tell yourself that, I think you'll put yourself out there more.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that much to lose, really. But you have so much to gain by doing that. And you learn about yourself in every single exchange. Because it's an unpredictable situation every single time. So you never know what's really going to happen. And the amount of things that happened that were really positive were actually surprising to me. And so I loved doing these challenges.
Probably 1 out of 3 challenges actually got a yes.
Yeah, there were so many yeses.
1 out of 3, 1 out of 4.
And there were bizarre questions. Like, I asked a girl if I could, I saw her shoes. I'm like, hey, can I try on your shoes? And she's like, yeah, sure. And takes it off in front of me. And and I get to walk
in the middle of the street.
In the middle of the street. And I was like, that was actually cool. So yeah, there are a lot of awesome things that came out of it. And people were really nice, surprisingly.
I think that's what's beautiful with vulnerability in general, is that we live in a society where it's really repressed, but we have that thing deep down where we love people who are vulnerable. We love people who are genuine and come to us and have that weird thing, but it's fun and we want to connect this way. So,
exactly.
So I think I'm not that surprised that people reacted better than the anticipation we may have.
When was the last time you got to there were a few things that went not very no challenge went really, really wrong.
No,
really, really bad.
Nothing went
wrong.
The
worst I can think of was we walked up to people and said and asked if we could move in with them.
Because they weren't happy about it.
Okay. I'm supposed to laugh. No, but then there was this guy who was kind of, he thought that was such a weird thing, so he started following me, walking home, but nothing happened.
He got his mates and literally followed him down the street to find out.
You could just see from a far distance that he was hiding behind poles and stuff, and
it was just a question. So you still have to obviously be aware that people might react in a negative way, but like you said, I think people do really embrace people who are being vulnerable. But there's also so many skeptical people out there. So you've got to be prepared for that too.
When it came to the second part, some of the hardest thing that we did there, what would that be for you? Skydive, you were terrified.
I was trying to think of, as soon as we created this challenge, I remember saying, does that mean I have to skydive? That was the only thing I thought of. My biggest fear ever was skydiving.
And if someone says that, do they? Of course they have to.
And for me it was so paralyzing that I lost sleep, for 2 weeks leading up to it. I'd have panic attacks every time I tried to even have a brief nap. My heart would start racing I'm going skydiving soon. What's it going to feel like? How's it going to be? Am I going to survive? And I was so scared. And I was so scared that watching a video of people skydiving, I would cry and shake. I was absolutely terrified. And the reason I did it, I think it's really important to understand that I didn't go and do things I never wanted to do, ever. Yeah. I did things I really wanted to do, but I was so afraid of doing it that I was stopping myself.
And you were afraid, and it's not dangerous. Just because we're not telling people go on top of buildings and do all crazy
jump
kind
off
of
it.
things.
Exactly. I mean, I did abseil down a building. We both did, but that was very safe and it was for charity.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was terrifying for me, and I ended up doing it, and that was such an experience. Like all the way leading up to it, to actually going through it, and realizing I just did that thing I said I would never do because I was absolutely too scared.
Cheers to that.
Thank you.
Because you say like being brave is not to have no fear; it's to see the fear and do it in spite of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like. People think if you do these things, you have no fear anymore. That's so untrue because I did abseil down a building. I'm afraid of heights. And I realized recently I was still afraid of heights. So this was in October, we abseiled, and it was 135 meters and it was for charity. So that's really pushed me to do it. And then I realized recently that I'm still afraid of heights when I was at a lookout looking over. So then I decided I'm going to go abseil down a 200 meter like exposed cliff in the Blue Mountains because I'm still not over that fear, or I'm not feeling comfortable with it again. So I also think it's about doing it more than you usually would because you're never going to get rid of it. It's about managing it and being stronger every time that fear comes up. You need to be strong and you can get through it.
Leave it in the back seat.
And you're
it's
like,
seat.
You stay there, I'm going over here. Yeah, so that was a massive one for me, the comfort zone. Yeah, what was yours? I actually don't even know if...
But they're different. Like the ones that were definitely hardest was stand-up comedy was very, very hard.
I guess you got so much out of it, right? I did improv classes for 2 years.
Oh, you did?
Really?
Yeah. And we had a presentation in a bar at the end, and I think that's one of the best personal growth activities I've ever done.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I bet that even 2 weeks before you would think like, I'm never going to be able to do this, right?
Yeah, and you invite some of your friends, which I'm even how
definitely.
So how did it go?
It was like, and the thing was, I don't consider myself being a funny guy. I've never done anything similar before. I've never done acting. I've never really performed on the stage.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, can you say that again? But louder this time.
That was a big burn. Kudos.
That was good.
No, but that was obviously really, really hard. And I only gave myself 3 hours to prepare. And very, very hard. And I invited like 25 people there. So my friends were all there. So that was really, really hard. But again, as soon as it's over, it's like, cool. Your friends is there to support and help. So it was not that hard. A little bit harder was to go on and do a public speech on a bus, on a train. And that was probably the hardest because I failed at it two Mondays in a row. And I was like, I here's the next bus. I see it coming. Let's just go on and do it. But then like I just couldn't get on the bus and stand in front there and actually demand people's attention almost. And speak about something that I don't know if they're interested in. I had no idea if they were. So that was really fun, hard. And I ended up getting hugged and compliments like, yeah, you inspired me today. And then you realize, whoa, this is actually really changing the patterns of other people's lives, not only my own. I set myself up for failure with one challenge as well, which was I'm not a very violent guy. I've never been in a real fight. So I challenged a friend of mine who's an experienced. He's done a few amateur fights. To go into the ring. And fight me. And I almost got him. No, he knocked me out like 5 times.
Tell the truth.
No,
you put up a really good fight though, honestly. You did.
Yeah, well, I hit him like once.
For not having any clue what you were doing, it was pretty decent.
Yeah,
well, that's good. I mean, it's same. I started doing Muay Thai.
You've done that?
But I can see when I start sparring, my body gets so tense.
It's confronting. It's really confronting.
Because you can get freaking punched in the face.
It's like...
So it's not like, let's see how
your
this goes.
instincts taking over.
Protection.
Those were some of the really, really fun challenges. And then the absolute most rewarding thing of the entire challenge was pay forward. doing something nice for someone else. I
Definitely.
have completely underestimated that, and to be honest, Hayley is like world class when it comes to giving.
Thanks. Sorry, what?
Don't make this awkward. No, but so what we do then, we like take a homeless person out to dinner.
Yeah, we actually walked past a homeless person on the street who's begging, and we said, hey, do you want to come to dinner with us? And he thought, no, I need to stay here to make money to stay at a hostel tonight. And we said, well, come with us and we'll give you money to stay at the hostel as well.
Yeah.
And that was such an incredible experience because we had no idea like who this guy was and if he had any issues, because mental health issues are obviously very common with homeless people, and I've done a lot of work on that as well myself. So I thought this would be something so good to give to someone in need. And he came with us, and the whole time, like, this is the biggest surprise to me, he hardly ate. I think it was like all you can eat pizza. He had like 2 pieces, and I said, aren't you hungry? And he repeatedly said, no, I'm just so happy to have this company and to have people to talk to. And we were with him for 2 hours.
Not even that. I think it was an hour.
Or maybe no, it was definitely longer than an hour. An hour. It was probably like an hour and a half. And he actually did have mental health issues. I think he may have been schizophrenic. I'm not an expert, but just the way he was talking. But it didn't matter. He just was so grateful that we were there. And I remember the first thing he did, he had a mobile phone on him. And he's like, I'm sorry, can I just quickly go outside? I just want to call my friend and tell them what's happening. I want to tell them that these people have taken me to dinner. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is so beautiful. Like this guy is so appreciative of this. And we just, it wasn't anything for us to do that. We took a couple of hours out of our time, gave him a little bit of money, didn't spend much at all. And it was so good for him.
And for you, from what I hear.
Oh, like I want to do it again and again. and you know, and we actually did a challenge as a comfort zone challenge to be homeless. So Ed did 24 hours, I did 12 hours, and we went into Sydney and we were homeless to experience it. And we gained so much perspective because we begged and we didn't have shoes. And I mean, a lot of homeless people these days do have shoes, but we wanted to make it really challenging for ourselves.
You must develop a huge sense of compassion then.
Yeah, absolutely. Like to actually go through that experience. I remember sitting there during the challenge at night, and this woman was given popcorn by people who had just gone to the movies, and she turned, and she was legitimately homeless. She turned around, she looked at us, and she said, hey, do you guys want some popcorn? And my heart almost broke because I knew I was there for perspective, but I wasn't really homeless. And I thought, I want to help these people so much. And look at their compassion. You know, they don't have anything and they're still generous, compassionate people. So like beautiful experiences that came out of our comfort zone challenges as well. Really eye-opening and life-changing as well.
It's like what I realized is, if you're going to put in a business sense, you always talk about refund on investment. And you can't really quantify the refund on investment on giving, but I can promise that it's like at least 5-fold. If you make someone just a little bit happy, that's going to make you like so tremendously happy because you've actually made someone's life better. How meaningful is that?
And I think what's important is this is when you start giving and contributing, you find that giving is the receiving. It's not that, because sometimes like give to the universe and you'll receive, and I think it's kind of true. I think it works this way in a way too, but it's not like with the expectation of receiving. Like the very fact of giving, of having that experience, you can see it's like this was really rewarding for you in the end in itself. Even if karma doesn't knock at your door and be like, oh, you've been nice, we're gonna give you this. Like in itself, it's so rewarding.
Exactly. That's what giving is to me. Just the act of giving is rewarding. Like to make someone else happy, it's so rewarding.
So what else did we do there then? As a few examples.
What do you mean in paying it forward? Well, we did go to the airport and we greeted first timers at International Airport to Australia. And we had maps and like little toys for kids and some balloons. And
Aussie hat.
Some Australian little souvenirs. And there was one thing that actually happened. It was one of our first ones that we actually did where we gave people some things. we spoke to this man and his wife who were waiting for their 2 young daughters to arrive. I think they were like 12 and 13 or like young, and they had flown on their own over here, and they told us the story. And we said, hey, would you mind if we gave them, some gifts? And they were just blown away. Like, oh my God, yes, please do. They're going to love it. And the girls walked out, and, it's almost like we became friends with the parents while we were waiting for the girls, and then they introduced us. And then we gave them gifts, and they were so appreciative, and they were the most beautiful girls as well. We had a quick chat to them and gave them hugs, and you just saw their faces light up. And that, in those moments, it just means everything. And I remember the dad said, oh, do you have a business card? Because we explained what we're doing. And we said, just watch this space. We're trying to do good things like this for good people. And that was a memorable experience for me, to see those 2 little girls and the parents embracing what we were wanting to do, because there were so many people there off the plane that were just like, no, what are you doing? No, get away from me. Because obviously airport is a secure place. You can't really do these things. We were lucky to be able to have done it. But so many people were just get away from me.
It's funny to see people's like how people are in this mode sometimes. Like, for example, last time I was in Paris, I was like, okay, in the metro, I'm going to smile at people, And like, sometimes you get an old lady being like, oh, it's nice to see someone smile in the metro, or, But most people, they're like, who the fuck is that creep?
Yeah. Stop looking at me. What's wrong? What do you want? It's usually, what do you want? And so people like, get away from me. So, and that was a really memorable moment for me. In particular, those 2 girls and her family.
Do you know what we should do now?
What should we do? I think I know.
Well,
but go on.
No, but I'm just thinking, it's even a bigger reward to give to someone else, which giving the gift of giving to someone else, if that makes sense. So I want to challenge you.
Yeah.
Are you up for a challenge?
Oh man, always.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you must have known this was coming, right?
Yeah.
I'm asking these people their challenges.
We're in Bali, and we've been, during this podcast, figured out that you have a fear of failure, and you would also say being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Do your parents know that you love them?
Yeah, I tell them now.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still a little bit shy with a little I love you at the end of the conversation, but yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was hard for me.
It was hard for me too.
It might seem ridiculous because some people are used to saying it all the time, but
but that's the crazy thing.
With me though.
Yeah.
And I'm very expressive, and I still really struggled to tell my parents.
Yeah.
They were almost like, yeah, we know. Like, why are you telling me
this?
Yeah,
exactly.
It was really hard for me. Exactly, yeah. My mum was like, yes, I know you love me.
You're going to go around the world and never speak again.
Oh, I've done that before, where I started really opening up to people, telling them how much I appreciate them, and the amount of times people said, are you dying? Like, what? No, why can't I just tell you how I feel?
Why can't I just love you, please? Okay, but let's challenge you to this then, which is kind of easy, and you can think it's silly or whatever, but I just think that this is something that will make a lot of people happy, most of all you. You should post on whichever social media platform, you going up to 5 strangers and hugging them.
Okay.
I feel like that's too easy for
That's
me.
the easiest thing for me. Like,
did you see the There were 5 strangers here, and he came up and embraced them.
But they're like friends of friends. That's different. But I mean, I don't.
I'll be honest with you. That's so easy for me.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. No. What about?
So
no. Remember what we did? We did a second step to this, where instead of you going up to hug someone, you go and hug that person, and then you convince them to hug another stranger.
Okay.
That's the gift of giving and giving again.
But again, I'm happy to do it, but that's not too hard.
What was that?
That's not too hard for me.
To try and convince another stranger to go and hug another stranger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We need to go bigger. This isn't enough.
I think
it's
here, for example, I mean, I think one of the things that's quite taboo in our society, like relationships, intimacy, sex. That's I think for me, and maybe it's not, but here in Ubud, I started looking into things like Tantra, which is how you interact with. It's very wide. So Tantra is like super. There's like we only see the sexual part of it usually in the Western world. It's way wider than this. But it's really about how you interact with people, how you own your darkness too, your dark energy, sometimes this kind of thing. And I think for me at the moment that's the most uncomfortable. So I don't know if you can challenge me on anything like this. But that's why you remember when I talked about things.
Let's have tantra sex right now.
I just think things with strangers. Yeah. You know, if you tell me go stranger and do something and make a fool of yourself, it's hard. But to me, the next level of uncomfortable is when you do something you really care about.
Of course. Okay. You're absolutely right. And that's like, of course, it's harder to ask for a raise or quit your job or anything like that than just say, can I have a free coffee?
Yeah.
I have a better question then to identify what we can do to challenge you.
Yeah.
What you just said what you're talking about with Tantra and stuff and the darkness, like embracing your darkness. What currently makes you uncomfortable that you're not taking action on because you're uncomfortable with it?
I think some of probably some of my sexual desires.
Oh!
But I don't know if I want to talk too much about it on the podcast. Like,
okay, let's keep it PG, right? You did already
say
honestly, it might be easy for you to go and hug 5 or 10 people.
Yeah. But it does.
But I think for a lot of people,
yeah.
Showing that you're actually willing to take on a challenge like that, even though it's simple for you, I think it's still going to be a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, I think it's
not to the max, but just a little bit.
I think there's this. I saw one of the taboo. I think money also, like recently.
So
money.
Yeah.
As in your own value or spending.
It's more like wanting to raise money for things, and also for
fundraising.
Yeah, but for like what I believe in general, but also for me having comfort being in a nice, inspiring environment. I think I had shame on this too. Like there's like little things like this.
As in undeserving.
So for me, like it's really those deeper things. But I'll do I think I still need to do those little. As you say, like hugging in the street.
You build it up, everything is
because that's how you build the muscle.
Yes. Yeah. You start small and you finish big.
I mean, that would still be uncomfortable for me. It's not going to go away.
Okay, but I'll do that. That's not it. And we do that tomorrow or something when Chiego at the moment.
Yes.
So that's good.
Awesome.
And I want to ask you. I'm really interested in those, actions for good that you do. Do you think? Because I feel like when you do that, you have a completely different perception of the world. Like when you arrive and you're like so nice to people, then people are nice to you. I mean, do you feel? I know for me, when I'm in an environment like this, which you can find sometimes here in Ubud, or like it's such an expansion. When I see people receptive to it, and then you're like, you really see, what if the world was like this? You know, is that something you thought when you were at that airport or doing these little things, and you're like, why aren't we all like this all the time? Do you think the world could be like this?
I think it all goes back to fear of rejection and judgment. I think people don't do these things, particularly with people they don't know, because they're so afraid of but they're going to think I have an ulterior motive or a hidden agenda, or they're going to question why I'm doing this, or think like you're shady or dodgy or something. So I think we are so protected and sheltered that we question anyone even approaching us that we don't know, let alone trying to help us. It's almost like we've been in society we've been trained to stranger danger even. So if you're trying to do good for people,
sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you have to be cautious. You have to, you can't just go out there and get into a dangerous situation and think it's going to turn out really well. You have to have your wits about you still. But we did have you heard of the free hugs campaign? How there was that guy who held a free hugs sign. We did that. Nice. We're like, let's go to Central Station and do it. And I held the sign up for 15 minutes, and then Ed held the sign up, and we got so many hugs. And that was an incredible experience because that was attracting people to us who needed a hug that day. We weren't like, hey, come here. We were just like, hey, free hugs, hugs. And people would come up to you. And I remember I was just on a high after that experience thinking, more people need to do this. So even,
really
you know,
releasing some oxytocins and all
oh
the
my gosh,
feel-good
yeah.
hormones.
But when I told people about it, I was kind of deflated because some people said, but people have germs. And I'm like, are you kidding? Is that where you went with this?
Yeah.
I was like, people need hugs. They need to express themselves.
Welcome to our events in Sydney. We always start and finish with big warm hugs.
Oh yeah,
and
I'm
you
going
can
to love
feel
that.
how
I noticed
I'm
that
a
your
hugger.
hugs are long.
Yes,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
an embrace.
Yeah.
It's not just a hug.
Yeah, because you feel the person.
I really, yes.
Like, take time.
Isn't there a 20-second thing as well? If you hug for more than 20 seconds, like you
20
really,
seconds is a long time.
it's a very long time.
Mm.
It can make people
10
uncomfortable.
Well, you adapt to the person. There are friends I can hug with them for like 30 seconds.
And it's fine.
I'm not trying to make the person uncomfortable or be like the like I'm so
What do you
loving
want?
I'm so loving and the person like uncomfortable. You know, you gotta respect people's boundaries too. So
Yeah, definitely.
I think I wouldn't make it a rule for a certain time, but yeah, I think it's important, and a lot of people like I think it's inbuilt in people to love that. And obviously if
I
they
do
have
too.
resistance, you shouldn't impose it, but
No.
most people, when you're like, should we hug? They're like,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, I just walk up. I'm a hugger.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
be warned. Yeah. Yeah, so I do think I did have a shift in perspective doing the... It's also because doing Pay It Forward, you're really taking yourself outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you're not thinking about you at all. You're thinking, what can I do to make someone's
What
day?
did you discover about yourself?
What did I discover
Yeah.
in these?
Through the process, yeah.
In Paying It Forward, or the whole set of challenges? Well, I know a lot more about what I'm capable of, that's for sure. And the power of giving is so much stronger than I even understood at the time as well. And as I said, like I really enjoy giving to people. And as you said, even the act of giving is me receiving.
Yeah.
And to then go out and do that with people I'd never met before, and to see the reaction that they had of just pure appreciation, and to have that impact on people, that really changed my life. And that's when I said, I want to do this. I want to actually coach this.
Yeah.
I want to help people with this, because there's so much power within people that they're not aware of.
Yeah.
And we can endure, and we are durable. We can go through these experiences, but we're currently telling ourselves, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. I was one of those people. And like I said, I'm afraid of many things. I still am. I still have such a massive list, and I'm working through them all the time.
Yeah.
So I learned that about myself, is now I embrace discomfort. And sometimes I do actively seek it out as well. You know, I'm too comfortable right now. What can I do? Because I need to keep growing so I can be more for others. So ultimately, and I think I mentioned this to you before, you know, I would love to make millions so I can give all that money away. Like that's what I want to do in life. I want to be able to provide for others. Too? Yeah, you know, I'll have some as well. Yeah. Like,
because that's sometimes an idea that's uncomfortable.
It's to have money for myself is uncomfortable for me.
To not have shame around. Well, I want to be in a nice place.
I think we can relate to that, and I think it is about feeling undeserving. We are so grateful. I imagine you're a very grateful person as well. You probably practice gratitude, and I've spoken to Ed about this too. We were thinking about the concept, can you be too grateful, almost in a way where you sort of stop. You're so grateful that you almost stop appreciating like what else you can do, or who else you can be, and to go further. And for me, I'm just like, well, I'm always thinking of what can I do now to impact lives, and if I can make more money as well within myself, I can put that into the people that I want to help. Like, it's not about me at all. And I get so much out of coaching because it's not about me. It's all about the other person, and I'm just using my personal experiences.
Is it like completely not about you?
Well, obviously I get something. Yeah, I was like, I get something out of it clearly, because
and that's fine. But that's my point. Like, when I do this, I want contribution. I want to help people, but there's a part of me that wants significance. You know?
Yeah,
and
yes.
I'm a bit, and yeah, I can be a bit ashamed of it, but I'm not, like, because that's
own it. And you're right.
Yeah,
like that's
I'm
why,
fine with it.
we've come up with these challenges, and that is very significance related as well.
And it's fine.
You can't deny that. It's definitely that, because there's some crazy things that you end up doing. And yeah, so of course there's elements to that, but I'm definitely focused on growth and contribution, and it sounds like you are too. So, yeah, and it just means so much to me. Like, I get so much out of
I am, and I try to be as much as possible, but I try not to judge my significance, my need for significance that's still there.
Yeah, and you shouldn't, because it's okay.
Yeah.
If that's not what's driving you all the time, because it's quite external, then it's absolutely fine. But clearly you want to, it's growth and contribution. And Ed's been very quiet over here.
What did you discover?
He's like, I got nothing to add.
I have nothing to give.
What did you discover about yourself through the process?
I think just the fact that, like, just looking back at how easy it is to create an exciting life, to me is phenomenal.
Simple or easy? Because we often say it's simple,
easy,
but not easy.
Yes.
You know?
Easy. I mean, like, we spoke about this as well, but that challenge, we've created more stories in our lives than we have done probably in the rest of our life combined up until that point. Like, there were so many interesting stories, so many interesting interactions with people, but we probably wouldn't have pulled through if it wasn't for the accountability. Like, we even said, like, okay, if someone backs out and don't do a challenge one day, you pay $1,000.
Okay.
So it was like, it was a painful.
And the pride also on top of the
that too. That too. So
accountability is so important.
Absolutely, and that's probably like what Hayley's doing with coaching is. There's nothing more valuable than having that accountability, I believe.
But what did you learn about yourself?
About myself? Well, primarily that my happiness is all about others' happiness. Like the giving, like without a doubt, that was absolutely the most revealing thing. And I see that when I give to others, people give to me more, and that was cool.
And just to go back on the significance, it's still there. I think it's important to own it, but I would agree, like, doing Unlocked, I discovered the feeling of contribution, and I think there's nothing that matches that feeling when someone tells you, "Oh, what you did for me changed my life," or this kind of comment. So we're completely aligned on that.
And man, you should have so much kudos for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you help people get out of their boring routines and build new ones, and help people actually, start thinking about giving, start thinking about taking care of themselves so that they can take care of others. I think it's awesome what you do, man.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
And, but yeah, so for you, what you discovered was really how happy it made you to make others happy.
Yeah, that is one part, but also two more things that I would say is things are never as bad as you perceive them to be. They're very, like, nothing of all these 100 crazy things that we did, nothing really went wrong. We were like, whoa.
I love that. Makes me think of if you like Stoicism and Seneca.
Oh yes.
He says we suffer way more in imagination than in reality.
Absolutely. The challenges will bring that out.
Yeah.
You definitely understand that after doing it. Yeah. The anticipation is always so much worse.
Yeah. and just you won't ever be completely fearless. You will just learn how to deal with it. I heard this really good thing by a guy called Darren Hardy. He said, you don't need to be courageous the full day. There's moments you probably need to be courageous 20 seconds in a day, because when you make the decision, that's when you need to be courageous. Otherwise you could chill for the rest 23 hours 59 minutes and 40 seconds, but just those few moments, that's when you need to be courageous. And they're like pretty much everything that we did, I would still be uncomfortable doing them. Yeah. But I just know how to deal with it. I just know how to get me to just do it.
Yeah, an interesting thing I did recently was fundraising in the street.
Yeah.
You go try to make people smile, annoy people. That's a good one too. Okay, that was so good, guys, and I'd love to know if you can tell a little bit about what's next now for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how can we follow you, and what's the next steps?
Yeah, so Facebook, you can definitely go to @welcome-to-TGZ. And that's welcome to the growth zone. And we'll be posting what we did with our challenges on there.
Nice.
And we'll have details of coaching as well and how to reach us for that. And in terms of next steps, I mean, I'm still going with coaching, talking to some clients at the moment, and really keen to keep that going. And I have seen so many phenomenal results already. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm so impressed by these people and the courage that people have that they don't realize they even have. And it's in small things. Like, I have to point out, do you even understand what you're actually doing right now is massive? And they're like, is it really? And people aren't aware of that. So the coaching is something that I'll continue on with for sure for as long as I possibly can. Yes.
But I have to say, like, you got me to do so many good things. So you're a phenomenal coach. You're really good at what you do, and you're really good at holding people accountable to an extent that would just get 99% of people to say, yeah, that's a cool idea, but I'm tired, I won't do it. Hayley's the type of person that will help you really get shit done. So I just recommend checking her out. I will just be on the sharing stuff and sharing the challenges, because I thought that was really, really interesting.
But we're working on some bigger things as well for the future. We would love to put together a documentary of what we actually did.
That'd be awesome.
We would love to do that. And you'll see that, like, at the end of the day, we are just two normal people that decided to make a change. Like, that's essentially all this is. But we've transformed so much from that. And I've seen other people, even just having these discussions with them, they're transforming in front of us just by hearing that it's possible to do these things.
What do you think is your purpose? Do you think it's this?
Is my purpose this? I can tell you that I have never felt so... I need to find... I can't even express a word for it.
Pulled.
I wouldn't say... Yeah, pulled maybe. I wouldn't say confident, but I've never felt so sure, so certain.
Like drawn?
Yeah. I wake up in the morning and, I have my habits. I meditate, I do visualization, I do all these things, cold showers. Nice. And I actually love doing these things. Like, I love every part of my day knowing I get to do this.
Yeah.
And I have, to be honest, I've never experienced this ever in my life. Besides maybe training, I used to train and that was what I thought, this is me. But that wasn't helping anyone. That was purely for myself. This is so much bigger. And I look forward to even the really mundane stuff that's involved in putting things together. I enjoy that too. Because to me, this is just what life is all about. If I can lead by example and help others and impact others to even understand that they're capable of so much more, and to show them that and to actually physically get them there, that's, to me, like, that's my purpose. Absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
You seem pumped. I'm so excited. No, we're like dancing.
Calm down. Settle down.
Well, good luck going after that.
But yeah, what can I say now? I'm set up to fail. No, to be honest, I don't know, man. I don't know what my purpose is, and like most people, I don't really know if I need to know. I'm just gonna try to do what excites me at the moment and be a good person. That's really important to me. Being a good person with good intentions, good actions, and shit. I feel like I'm rambling here now, but no, I don't know my purpose. I still don't.
Okay. I think it's time for the big hug.
Yay! Group hug.
Because we always finish these interviews with a big hug. As a tradition.
30 seconds.
20.
People are going to just go on now. This is so boring. We're listening.
Ed's gonna walk out the door like, yes!
We're listening to a hug. That's a good podcast.
Did you hear it?
No, but I think people can feel the love through their earphones or whatever you're listening through.
I hope so. So to the listeners, next time you see Alex, go and hug him. He's a really good hugger.
Yeah.
I'll set you up with some good hugs in the future, man.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks guys. Do you have anything you want to add?
We're done.
Yeah, no, I think we covered.
Was that part of being out of the comfort zone doing this interview?
You know what? I've told people that, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I said this will be uncomfortable for me. It's my first... You know, we were working on our own podcast to talk about our challenges. We went over so many and deleted the content constantly because we were so unhappy
when I
with
started this podcast, I had a big, what you call Impostor Syndrome, right?
Yes.
Like I'm not good enough to be a podcast host.
Yeah,
and that
we
was
felt
very
the same
uncomfortable,
way. Yeah. So being on this, definitely uncomfortable for me, but in a really good way. Like, I'm embracing this and it's been so enjoyable.
I tried to make you a bit uncomfortable. It was really hard. You were way too comfortable, guys.
What's he doing now?
Well, thanks so much, guys. I absolutely loved this interview, and thanks people for listening to this podcast. Thank you for listening, and I hope you had a good time listening to this podcast that I really loved. Again, if you like the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe and to give a nice review. And if you want to get started on our free online programs, I encourage you to go to go.unlocked.me. That's go.unlockdt.me. You can get started. The challenges and programs are free, and you can get guided through which one is the best to start with. So I hope to speak to you soon.